Good afternoon. I'm James Cole. Today I'm going to share my story and where I'm at so far in my life. The one thing I want to say before I start is telling you my story is that God has been involved in my life all throughout and has done things in the background that I've only recently realized how fortunate I was for those things to happen for me. So, starting off, I grew up in New Jersey. I was actually adopted by the Cole family, and the Cole family was a God fearing family who put Christ first, school, and then the family as just like the priority, my priority list essentially. So, I spent a lot of time in the church. I was in choir, I was on the usher board, I was the president of the youths. I did a lot of stuff with the community as well, but I just never had a personal relationship with Christ. I really didn't understand that too well. Maybe the lessons themselves that were being taught to me, I just wasn't perceiving them the way that I should have been or that others would have at that age. But following high school, I graduated. I went to college, went out to Widener University, actually failed out of college. I just spent too much time horsing around, messing around and just partying. And after I fell out, I actually went into a slump of just partying nonstop, essentially. Just partying, drinking, doing all those kinds of things for a few months. And then my mom actually invited me to a Salvation Army men's retreat one day, and I was getting ready to go to this party, and I just got this text message from her. She's like, "Hey, the bus is about to leave. Are you ready to come?" Now, before I even knew what I was saying, I already had a bag packed, and I just replied, "Yes, I'm on my way." So I ran 2 miles down with the backpack going to this bus, and got on this bus. Was able to go out to this men's retreat over the weekend. It's my first time going to something like that since I was an adult, just being with a bunch of men from different lifestyles, successful guys, unsuccessful guys. Regardless, we were all there, shooting, hunting, fishing, uh, on the boats, just hanging out, working out together, volleyball, all types of stuff. And during the last breakfast, I actually stumbled across a conversation between two men. And it was an older gentleman, and he was explaining to another guy how important it was to be silent in your life and to listen for God, not just talk to Him and not just pray, but to actually listen. And the example that he used was, if you're a soldier and you're out in Afghanistan, for instance, and this is before I even came in the army on the enlisted side, and this guy's telling him this, so of course it piqued my interest. He's like, if you're in Afghanistan and the enemy's all around you, you get separated from your troop, and your radio comms are down. The only thing you can rely on is yourself at that point, yourself and God. So how are you going to be able to hear God if everything else in your mind is going on? If everything in your spirit is so much louder than what He's trying to say? So for the next month, I practiced being silent in everything I did. I put gospel music on all the time. I would have it in my headphones. I did nothing but study my Bible. I did nothing but talk about God as much as I could, as much as possible. And I talked with Him. And as I walked, as I ran, as I worked out, whatever I did, I included God in it. And as I was walking to my friend's house one day, he actually spoke to me for once, or excuse me, it was the first time I heard him speak. And what he said to me was, I've always been there. You've always had a father, and you've never needed a father here on earth. And that was very profound for me because I never met my father, not until actually I was in the army going on my third deployment. So for me, that was just life changing. It was like shattering to me. And from there, I knew how real God was. Fast forward some time, I ended up joining the army, enlisting. I get to MEPS, and I'm trying to get my job. And the story you're always told is by your recruiters, oh, your scores aren't good enough. You'll be a cook, or you'll be a mechanic, or you'll be this, or you'll be that. And so I go down there and I sit down next to the gentleman, and he looks at me and he says, "What job do you want?" And I was like, "I thought you guys give me the job." He's like, "No, what job do you want?" So I've always wanted to support. I've never been one for trying to kill people, so to speak. So I was like, I'll do an intel job if you have any. And there was an intel job available, so that was the job I got. And that was the first time since I heard God that was just like, in my opinion, just divine intervention. Did that, went to AIT, graduated that, deployed, and came to my first duty assignment, 7th Group, down at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. It's my first time being in Florida, like living there, so that was a huge godsend. But probably the biggest thing that happened in my life getting down there was meeting the Navigators. There was this guy, his name is Tyler Nordman. He was one of my soldiers, he was one of my coworkers. And every Friday, this dude would invite me out to this Bible study. And I was just like, bro, I'm good. Like, I don't want to go to Bible study. I'm good. You know, it's a Friday night. I'm going to go out party. I'm going to go out drink. I'm going to go out do this stuff. And this one Friday night, he's just like, hey, man, what are you doing for dinner? I'm like, I don't really have any plans for dinner. So he grabs me. He's like, come on, let's go eat dinner. Little did I know the dinner he was referring to was dinner prior to Bible study at Nate Bauer's house. So I get to dinner, we finish eating, and I'm like, hey man, you ready to go? He's like, oh, we're actually about to do Bible study now. So then we go from dinner right into Bible study. We get done Bible study, and it was the first time I had felt in a long time that I had met a family that was not judgmental and that truly cared about each person's personal state of being, and not for a monetary reason, not because they were their soldier or they were the coach and this was one of their players, but because they genuinely cared about each person that was there. So I spent way more time going hanging out with the Navs, spending time with them. I did have one fatal flaw, however, which was I continued to have a private life and I continued to have a public life, and they were not merged. So I would go to Bible study and I would do all those things, the same issue I'd had when I was growing up, and it was I did all the activities, but I just didn't live it. I didn't have that personal relationship with Christ. I was blessed actually, to have James DeStano and Nate Bowers and Elisa DeStano, James's wife. They continued to work with me even through all the BS, through the late nights and still partying and vacationing and doing pretty much everything I shouldn't be doing. Something in me knew that I still had to go to them and I still had to keep striving to find Christ, to find my personal relationship with Christ. So I'm very, very fortunate to have had those people in my life to continue to work with me even through all the BS. Fast forward some more time after that, my second duty station was down in Tampa, Florida, MacDill Air Force Base. I went to an assignment down there at SOCCENT, and it was very different than my previous assignment. It was more of a headquarters level assignment. Everyone there was married with children, so I had no friends at work. So the first thing I did when I got down there was get linked up with David Halls, who is a navigator coordinator down there as well. He's the lead navigator, and just so many years of knowledge and wisdom. The lessons that he taught me there truly helped me mold my personal relationship with Christ that much deeper, because when I was down in Tampa, I bought my first home and I lived by myself pretty much for those 2 years, save for a few months. A good friend of mine, Zachary McDaniel, took me into his house and just took care of me better than most people have in my life. But spending so much time by myself, I was able to realize what it took to have a personal relationship with Christ without being handheld, without having, James DeStano pick me up and drag me, to church or Bible study, or having Nate Bowers there kicking me in the rear, pushing me forward, but having a self-worth and having self-motivation to figure out who Christ was. I really got to understand that and figure that out much more down in Tampa than I did when I was in Eglin, because it was kind of just me for most of my alone time down there. Following that, I was in my time in Tampa, I received what I believe to be like my vision, or whatever vision God has for me. I went to 2 selections down there, one of this for 2 different units. I was a non-select for one of the units, and I was a select for the other unit. For the unit I was a non-select for, even though I was a non-select, the most amazing thing happened to me while I was there. I got there, you go through a psych eval, you do all this stuff, and pretty much they take everything away from you. Books, newspapers, I don't know if people still carry those, all electronics, even lotions, even personal items, certain clothing. They take pretty much everything away from you, strip everything away from you, so that it's literally only you and whatever obstacles they set before you for each day. I didn't realize it, but I was the only one who was able to keep my Bible, because my Bible is an integral part of who I am. And I tried to express that as best I could. And I also prayed every day. And, I just read every day, prayed every day, and just asked God to just continue to allow me to serve him while being at the selection. Well, about halfway through that selection, I had about 12 people every day that would come to me, and we would all do a Bible study together. I was alone with the Bible. I sat down. One person showed up, then 3, then 4. Then before I knew it, I had an entire group of people every day We'd get done whatever we had for that day. We'd come back, we'd eat dinner, and then we would all do a Bible study lesson about an hour long. During that time, God really he really showed me two things. One, as long as I have the word and I am presenting that to other people in whatever form or fashion, those who want to seek him will seek him out even through me. And that wasn't my original thought. I'm just like, I'm just doing Bible study by myself. I don't really want to bother anyone. And then it's like, oh, you have your Bible? Oh yeah, I have my Bible. You mind if I read with you? What are you reading? What are you studying? How'd you learn this? So that was the first thing I learned. So I just prayed every single day and every night, any of my free time, like, God, what do you want me to teach them today? What do you want me to learn today? What is it in your word that like I need to pull out? And it actually got to the point where every lesson was based on whatever trial we did for that day. And it was something I truly just still can't understand. If we were, hiking very far, if we were going up mountains or going through water or something like that, every single day God gave me passages or entire chapters that related to whatever it was that we went through in that day. So that was the first thing. The second thing he taught me on that time was a companion, a partner is an invaluable asset for any ministry. There was a guy there, can't say his name, but he became a good friend of mine. And once I had about 10 people there, he would get with me before Bible study and after Bible study. He'd say, "Hey man, I was praying, and God showed me this today." All right, dude, let's do it. You lead study then. He really helped egg me on and push me harder to continue to be that leader in that aspect in that group. So by the time I finished that selection and I was a non-select, I wasn't even upset because I felt like I did what God wanted me to do. So I finished that selection, went to another selection, got accepted in that one, got picked up, and then eventually moved up here to Fort Bragg. And then my time here at Fort Bragg has been just tremendous, just endless blessings. I got here, and the first thing that happened was coronavirus. So whereas most people were upset because they had 3 to 4 months off of no work, essentially, some people, their identity is in work and it's not in Christ. So for me getting here and having 3 months off of just having to be home, and I spent all that time at the Bowers household, learning from Nate, over at the Guys Pad here in the Cottonade area, learning just from different people, meeting different people within the Navs, outside of the Navs. Berean Baptist Church, started going there. For me, that time was bent building my foundation, and I feel like I'm a much stronger person spiritually now than I've ever been in my life before. But I think one of the biggest things it showed me was the constant need for growth. Even throughout that, that free time, every day, I'm studying APAC, I'm studying BPAC, I'm on CPAC now, I'm memorizing it. I'm still doing my quiet times. I'm still, trying to spend time with the men who are important to me. I'm still trying to give my time to other men as well. So I learned a lot, and I learned that I still have to continue to grow, and I still have room to grow. So that's my story so far, and I'm just asking God to continue to bless me with insight and wisdom and great mentors who are able to mold and shape me. Thank you for your time, and I ask that God bless you as well.